what's on your playlist right now?
In my class.
Go to guilty pleasure food.
Ice cream.
Ice cream. Welcome to Face to Face, Megan and Siobhan.
Thank you.
Glad you could be here with us. Looking forward to this conversation. And we're going to continue to focus on federally funded research in the show, and that's why you're here. I understand the two of you are close friends.
Yeah.
That's
and office neighbors.
Yep.
And you've navigated many of the same experiences as faculty members, first generation students as well.
Absolutely.
And researchers in what are traditionally male fields. So all those different challenges and aspects. So what's the secret to your success, to your achievement?
So I would say having a really strong support system. So people along the way who've helped me figure out, what my strategy should be, what my strategic niche should be, who've helped me along the way with self-confidence, figuring out how to apply for grants, figuring out how to craft those grants, figuring out how to pull yourself up again after getting rejected from those grants, and publication strategies, lab management, support.
Mentoring is so important. It's been important in my career. It's almost important for everyone who's had any success. Megan, what would you add to that?
I think that's a really good one. When I joined the Genome Center, Siobhan was already here, and so she was someone who really helped me kind of get oriented on campus. Going along with that, I think finding the right team to push you forward, so not just mentoring, but just, collaborators, trainees in your group. And for me, at least in genomics, it's kind of being unafraid to take on innovative technologies and just kind of being open to kind of moving in the direction of wherever the field is taking us.
You touched on a second part of my question I wanted to follow up on. How important is it for you to support each other?
Mm-hmm.
Huge.
Yeah.
we have a group of four of us who like to send texts with, whenever we need support and whenever we need help. And
for both life, because we all have kids and families, but
Yeah.
also about science. We're like, hey, we have this, this method we're trying to work, or this paper we're trying to submit.
Yeah.
And so it's nice to have that
Yeah.
community.
I do want to hear a little bit about the kids and families as well. Tell us about yourselves and how you got into this research area and what's the focus of the research.
You want to go first?
Sure, I'll go first. So I'm a human genetics researcher, and I'm originally from Michigan, and I'm a first-gen undergrad at Michigan State, and I was lucky enough to start my PhD right when the Human Genome Project the new reference genome was published, and so I consider myself super lucky to have kind of started during a genomic era. And I was at the NIH and also at Oxford University. And so as a first gen, then moving to another country in a really kind of prestigious place was pretty eye-opening. And then I did my postdoc at University of Washington in genome sciences, and then that's when sequencing and all these other new technologies came to the forefront, and then started here at UC Davis about 10 years ago. And my group, we research the genetics of neurodevelopmental conditions and traits. And so in particular, I'm part of the Mind Institute here at UC Davis. And so we're highly motivated to understand the contributors to autism spectrum disorder. And on the flip side of that, we're interested in human evolution as well. So, autism is a impairment of language. And so those same genes could also, they've also potentially innovated in human genomes and made it so we can speak, and we do have language and reading and things like that.
Wow.
And so it's really fun to work on what we work on. And I guess also I'm a mom, so I have two kids. I have a 5 and an 11-year-old, and it's been great.
How about you, Siobhan?
So I am a plant biologist, and I'm also at the Genome Center, and so actually similar to Megan. So I started my PhD around when the Arabidopsis genome was sequenced, so the first plant model organism whose genome was sequenced. I really am impatient, and so I moved from basic molecular genetics to genomics because it was moving really, really fast. And around then, systems biology became really popular, which is really like the combination of engineering theory to biology and how to analyze massive amounts of data. And so I then moved from the University of Toronto, so Canada, to Duke University, which was also a big move for us to move to the United States. Did my postdoc with a really, really fantastic mentor, Philip Benfey, and I became fascinated with how we could extract information from individual cell types and the cell types at different developmental stages. And then started my lab trying to work on how plants respond to extreme environmental stressors, how they're able to integrate that with that kind of information with individual cells to figure out how to best adapt to that environment. And that's how, I started my lab and a little bit of our evolution. Also a mom with a 13-year-old and a 16-year-old. Had them when I was here, right at the very, very beginning. Our kids were in daycare together.
Wow.
And
Having had teenagers, I'll just say God bless you.
Thank you. They were tough days in the beginning.
So Megan, can you tell us a little bit about how your work can lead to treatments for diseases like genetic diseases and brain dysfunction?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, so we work on these complex genetic conditions that have many different genes, and genes produce proteins, and they have functions. And so when you figure out what the functions of those genes are that are mutated and kind of disturbed or kind of perturbed, then you can try to find small molecules, drugs that can actually help alleviate those symptoms. So in our lab, we use zebrafish as a model system, and so people oftentimes think it's kind of bananas that we work with zebrafish, even though we look at a human-specific, cognitive trait. But we share about 80% of the same genes as zebrafish, and so we can knock out these genes that we identify in kids with autism, and we can see how it affects their brains and affects their behavior and also development. And then, remarkably, we can also treat those symptoms, and so you can take small molecules and you can treat them and try to alleviate them. And so I think directly that's one of the aspects of my research that can lead to treatment. I also think it's important to know the causes of these conditions, and so it helps with early diagnostics. And so, the earlier we kind of have interventions for special kind of education, it's helpful for kids who have these communication problems. And so just the actual ability to diagnose early is really important.
I was always fascinated to learn that I had so much in common with a zebrafish. So thanks for reinforcing that for me.
That's right.
Siobhan, your work focuses on what you would call uncovering the beauty of nature through finding ways to make plants more resilient. Is that accurate?
That is correct.
Why do you think that's important?
Well, because I think all around us we are seeing huge changes in our environment, largely that are the result of human actions. Changes in precipitation and temperature and all of the rest of it. And I forgot the second part of your question. So
just why is this important?
It's very important.
There we go. So why is it important? Yeah. Because, we need food, we need our ecosystem, we need oxygen, we need diversity in plant life. And if we want to understand how plants cope with this really extreme, dynamic, fluctuating environment, then we need to understand how plants have been able to survive in extreme environments over evolutionary time.
Yeah, for sure. I think people underestimate how important it is for us to understand plant life and how it impacts our own food systems and other important parts of human life, right?
Correct,
So, So I know the Human Genome Project, which you mentioned, Megan, is an example of federally funded research. Couldn't have been done otherwise without the federal funding.
That's right.
And it accelerated the discoveries quite a bit. Can you just tell us more about how that has impacted the field?
Oh my God! I mean, to me, it's one of the most impactful things in at least human biology, human genetics research. The Human Genome Project, it released the reference genome in 2002, and at that time, people were kind of doing molecular biology. Fields were really disparate, I think. Folks were definitely not using genetics in their research, cell biology, developmental biology, but if you look across labs today, everybody's using the reference genome, everybody's doing transcriptomics and all kinds of genomic methods, and they're applying them to their specific questions. And so I think it's kind of creating a common language between these disciplines to be able to work together and innovating new tools. It's so important. It really is. Everyone uses genomics in their research today. So
Yeah, I think that's really...
Siobhan uses genomics for sure.
Yes.
Well, and to follow up for both of you, tell me what would be the impact if the federal funding was curtailed or was not there at all on your work?
Well, I think just our agricultural systems would be struggling. I think we would end up with crop yield, massive, cuts in crop yield and crops that aren't able to keep up in the face of all of these new and surprise stressors that they're experiencing. As a result, we'd have increases in human hunger, not to mention changes in the environment that can also affect, human life, human health, our ecosystems in general.
Yeah, I mean, on my side, I think one of the really nice parts about the fact that our research is federally funded is that it requires that we make everything open access. And so, at the time of the Human Reference Genome Project, there was a private effort that was happening in parallel. And the idea was that you would create a reference genome that people would have to kind of pay to use. And if that was the case and you actually had to pay to get access to that genome, I think it would have really hindered the ability of other fields to have access to it. And so, for sure, that's a huge reason why these federally funded programs are important.
Because industry wouldn't fund it.
That's right.
Philanthropy couldn't fund it.
That's right.
Correct. We need the federal government.
Yeah,
to
it's a huge amount of money.
Right.
But then even if you put that much money into it, kind of as a private company, you'd want to be able to make a profit off of it, right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Do you both work with the IGI, the Integrative Genomics Institute?
I have, yes.
We just got involved. One of my highlights of my career was when I get phone calls or emails from Nobel laureates.
Oh, yeah.
So,
That's
so
pretty
Jennifer
amazing.
Doudna
amazing.
emailed me, and I ran and called my wife and said, I got an email from Nobel laureate. Anyway,
That's
the
awesome.
reason why she emailed me was because she wanted us, UC Davis, to be involved with IGI.
Correct.
Because of our expertise in plant genomics
Yes,
absolutely.
and animal genomics, to augment what they were doing at Berkeley and other places. So, very cool. But I digress. We have a real fun thing we do on face-to-face called Hot Seat.
Okay.
You're in the hot seat. But it's really simple. I'm just going to ask you some rapid-fire questions looking for one-word, one-sentence type answers. But the unique thing we have, since we have both of you here today, I'm going to ask Siobhan to answer for Megan and vice versa.
Okay. You ready?
Here we
You're
go.
good friends. You know each other well. This is a test of how well you know each other.
We'll
All right.
see.
So here we go. So Megan, as a kid, what job did Siobhan want to do when she grew up?
Ooh, I feel like it would have been something in the arts for some reason. I feel like that. Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, I wanted to go into creative writing.
Yeah, writing.
Wow.
This is what I was thinking.
Cool.
Yeah.
Let's see. Siobhan, what is Megan's favorite dish to eat or cook?
Anything with rice.
I do love rice. Yeah,
She
it is
really
actually
loves rice,
I do love
and
rice.
lots of Korean food and anything that's spicy.
I do. That's perfect.
What's your favorite food to eat or cook?
Oh, my favorite food is roti. So my mom is from Trinidad, so roti and chicken curry.
Interesting.
Bone in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew your mom was from
Yeah,
Trinidad.
there's
I didn't know
not
roti.
enough of it in the Bay Area.
Spicy curry or
spicy.
Yeah. Wow.
I like
Okay.
spicy
Yeah.
foods.
All right.
Yeah.
So, Megan, does Siobhan prefer beach or mountains?
Ooh, I think she prefers mountains. Yeah. Because you're hiking and skiing.
I like keeping busy.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Siobhan, same question for Megan.
Oh,
That's a tough one.
I mean, like, she goes to the beach all the time in, like, Point Reyes and Marin and likes all of that.
Yeah.
Started trying to ski for a little while. So
Yeah,
probably beach more
Yeah.
than mountains.
It's beach?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
You guys are doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Siobhan, what academic work is Megan most proud of?
Ooh.
So I would say the first would be the T2T paper, telomere to telomere paper, on which she was a corresponding author, which is like a massive, massive achievement for anybody. And then also a new
Tell us more
professor
about
at
the
UC
paper.
Davis.
Yeah, the telomere telomere.
Yeah.
Maybe I should take over now.
Maybe you should.
Yeah. So I keep on talking about the reference genome, which was published in 2002, but in 2020, we completed the reference genome. So we were always saying, hey, we have a complete reference, but actually 8% of it was missing or incorrect, and we call it like the dark matter of the human genome. And during the pandemic, a group of perfectionists came together over Zoom. It was like 100 of us across the world, and we used the newest sequencing technologies, and we finished it. We finished every little bit of it. So
That's a fun fact. I didn't have any idea we didn't finish it the first time.
Yeah, I know. It was always like a secret that
it wasn't like
we didn't talk about, but yeah.
We didn't do a Jurassic Park and use frog DNA or anything
That's
like that.
right.
No.
Okay. So same question for Megan. What work is Siobhan most proud of?
Ooh. Actually, I mean, I feel as though her efforts in Africa probably would be something that she'd be most proud of. Yeah.
For
Maybe
a
you
lot
can
of
speak
reasons.
more to
Yeah.
that, but yeah.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah.
So we have a project working with collaborators in Ethiopia. And so our goal is to find microbes that can interfere with an interaction or an infection of sorghum with parasitic plants. That's like really, really devastating to small-scale farm holders. And as part of this project, so we determined that microbes could be used to interfere with that interaction, could reduce infection by that parasitic plant. And we identified ways in which those microbes could do it.
Very
and that
nice.
was
Sorghum is such an important plant. I don't think people know that.
It is, yeah. It's a critical plant for human consumption. Yeah. And then that was also really important to me because, unfortunately, a lab member of mine passed away in Ethiopia then. And so continuing on with that project, and it was a difficult challenge. And so I'm
sorry to
very
hear that
proud
part.
of it. Yeah.
You had this amazing training program too.
Yes. I had a training program that brought Ethiopian female scholars from Ethiopia, from the Ethiopian Agricultural Institute here to UC Davis to conduct research in her honor. So
fantastic.
That was also great.
Yeah. Megan, if Siobhan could meet anyone, alive or not, who would it be?
Oh gosh. Do you know?
No. But go for it.
You can just make it up.
You can totally make it
up. It's going to be some famous scientist of some sort, I bet, but I can't think of who it might be. McClintock.
Oh, that would be
right?
amazing.
McClintock. Yeah. That's my answer.
Okay. Tell us who that is.
Yeah.
Oh, so Barbara McClintock is a really incredible plant biologist, won the Nobel Prize, and discovered the phenomenon of jumping genes in corn, in maize. And transposons, for instance, are a major reason or a major mechanism associated with cancers, for instance. So it was a finding in plants that became fundamental to understanding human disease also.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Same question.
I don't even know the answer.
I would say it would be a
Megan can meet anyone,
scientist.
alive or not.
Yeah, I feel like it would be like both ways. So one would be a female scientist. Let's go with Rosalind Franklin.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then the other would be like a famous female runner or athlete.
Yeah.
I don't know who. Any of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, but yep,
One of
I
them.
agree. Somebody that's amazing.
So you're a runner.
Yeah,
Okay.
we
Yeah.
both are.
You both are
Both
runners.
are
Yeah.
runners.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, I asked this question of all guests on this show. So first, Siobhan, what's at the top of Megan's playlist right now?
Oh, are you past Harry Styles?
I am, but I still
Taylor
do.
Swift?
Yeah, I am really into Taylor Swift
Swiftie?
right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, she's got the new album out. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, Megan, same question. What's the top of Siobhan's
this is
playlist?
funny. I know Siobhan is a Justin Bieber fan.
Love Justin Bieber.
Wow.
So
he's Canadian.
We have like the musical taste of a teenage girl.
Of like 16-year-olds, maybe even 14-year-olds.
But you're never too old for Bieber and Swift, honestly.
Both of those artists were on my daughter's playlist.
Oh,
Yeah, there
really?
you
And they
go.
still
See,
be
there we
for all
go.
I know.
There you go.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Making
All right. Now it's your turn. You can each ask me anything you'd like to ask me.
Oh, okay. Where is your favorite place to eat in Davis?
My favorite restaurant in Davis is the Mustard Seed, which is a little high end for, students don't really eat there, but the food is really good. Everything on the menu is tasty. We eat there a lot.
What's your favorite dish?
Duck.
Duck.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay. I like the black rice that they have.
That's
the
good too.
wild rice.
Yeah.
I love rice.
That's right.
How do you maintain work-life balance, or do you? And how do you do that?
I try to. It's
Yeah,
really
yeah.
hard because this job is kind of a 24/7
Yeah.
commitment. But I always try to maintain priorities. Like if I'm not healthy and had enough rest and had enough food to eat, I'm not going to be good to anybody.
Sure.
So I make sure I try to stay healthy. Got a real good support system, starting with my wife, and whom people at Davis like much better than me. But she's a great partner, and I try to make sure family comes first before work in all things. But I'm pretty much on all the time, so the balance is really challenging.
Yeah, I hear you.
Can I keep going?
Sure.
What is your approach to handling all of these changes in funding cuts, and particularly to programs that help those who are underserved in the sciences?
Well, I try to take the long view and not get too anxious or wrapped up in the fact that these things could be catastrophic. I try to think about what's the best way to stay optimistic and keep the rest of the campus optimistic in the face of these challenges. We've kind of had a three-pronged approach to addressing them. We've had litigation, which we're involved in. We've had advocacy with elected officials, and we've had sort of what I would call PR approach with Labs to Lives, which maybe you've heard of, and trying to just show people why this federal funding of research is important and how it can impact you in your life as well. It's not just something that scientists do for fun or for kicks. We do it because we want to have an impact on society. So,
yeah, that's great. I have another question,
Sure.
and it's about AI. And so, as an instructor, we are kind of finding challenges in terms of kind of dealing with AI and how students are using it, and we're also trying to figure out ways to use it to teach effectively. And so I'm curious to know your thoughts on how we can effectively use AI, I guess.
I think we have to embrace AI. I think it's here, it's not going anywhere, and it's going to be a tool that's going to be in our toolbox to use. I think from the teaching perspective, we have to reimagine what we consider academic honesty or dishonesty, and think about ways that the students can make use of AI in their assignments and their learning that's constructive. And we shouldn't be always thinking about punitive ways to keep them from using it. It's kind of the same thing happened years ago when calculators were first introduced, right? So no one's going to know how to do math. I think that's a little alarmist, and we're still in the early stages. We haven't figured it out yet, but I think there's definitely some work to do to sort of reimagine how we teach, what we think learning is, and how it can be done effectively. On the research and operation side, again, embrace AI. It's going to be a new tool in our toolbox to use. We have to think about ways to use it as a tool that improves the quality of people's experience, either their work experience or life experience or both, and not as a way to replace people, which is what people are afraid of. Right? So not saying these are easy things to do, but that's the way I think about it.
Yeah, that's great.
One more.
So I have a 16-year-old who's applying to university. I have no idea how I figured out how to get to university because I didn't have anybody really help me along the way. And now I'm in another country, and I have to figure out that whole system. So what kind of advice can you provide to me about how to help your kids on their path to think about college and how to apply?
Yeah, that's a great question. So my girls are 30 and 28 now, so I've done this. It was a long time ago. But first thing I think is you have to introduce your kids to some experiences related to college life. So if there are camps or workshops or different things that they could do, preferably residentially at a college campus, those things are really helpful for them. And I think you can't get overly stressed out about it, because when they start applying, it is very stressful for the parent. Because they're gonna get into a good college or university somewhere. So make sure they have a variety of different types of choices. Big school, small school, rural, urban, research, baccalaureate, all those kind of different choices. Make sure they have a variety of things to think about and choose from, and talk to as many different people as possible. And when you drop them off, don't cry.
Oh, I'm such a crier. That's a big...
I'm just joking. My wife cried for like 3 weeks when we dropped our first, my oldest off. She stopped because she was dehydrated.
She's like, I have more water left in my body.
I may have cried a little bit too. And this has really been fun.
Yeah, great.
That was it for questions. And you guys have been very generous with your time. And I appreciate you coming on Face to Face. Appreciate what you do for UC Davis and your great research and teaching and mentorship of our students. So thanks for all that. And thanks for being on the show. And thanks to you, everyone, for watching. We'll see you next time on Face to Face. Go Ags.